According to Professor Mirza Baradaran, at the time of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1865, Black wealth in this country was approximately 0.5%. Today, over 150 years later, Black wealth is approximately 1.5%. There are many reasons cited for these disparities. Some of these reasons include systemic racism and the discriminatory public policies that have consistently failed to identify and correct the impact of slavery on Black wealth. Regrettably, these gaps do not improve with age or education. In fact, a college education does not improve the wealth gap. The stark reality is that even for African Americans with college degrees, they still earn less than whites with no college degree. Why is this important? Because if you took the 100 wealthiest U.S. citizens, their wealth combined would be greater than the entire wealth of the total African American population in the U.S. That's right. 100 people have more wealth than 42 million people. And let's be real, nobody is whining about 40 acres and a mule. It's estimated that it'll take 228 years for us to catch up. Proverbs 13:22 says, "A wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." That can only happen with a goal, vision, and a plan. And where there is no vision, the people perish. Hi, we want to welcome Mark Smith to Tabernacle Talks. Hey, Mark.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I want to thank you for agreeing to share some of your knowledge with us about things that you do to make a difference in your future in terms of saving. And so I guess the first question I want to ask you is, when did you first start saving money?
I would say probably around 22 or 23. That coincides with I guess you could say my first real job when I was offered like a 401k type plan. Prior to that, I never really thought about it. You just kind of assume, oh, hey, I'll have money when I get older, or their Social Security or the ferry or however you would end up living without working. But once I got a little older, and I also had my first kid when I was 21, so you just think, how are these things going to happen? These things aren't just going to magically happen. So, that when I was afforded the ability to have a 401k or a retirement plan through my employer, that's when I really started to think about retirement.
Well, I think that's good to hear. You realized fairy dust wasn't going to do what you needed to do.
Sadly, no.
So what were your initial goals?
So my initial goal, honestly, when I think about it, is how much money do I really need to survive? And also what do I want to do when I get older? One thing I always tell my wife is I would love, once our kids graduate from college or they have their career set, they're out of the house, I would love to move to say Amsterdam or somewhere in Holland for just 4 or 5 years. And obviously I don't want to move to Holland and work, so you're going to need a decent amount of money. So I always thought as long as I landed anywhere between say $3,500 and $6,000 a month as a retirement plan, that my wife and I could live comfortably. I don't need a lot. I can self-sustain pretty easily. So anywhere between 35 on the low end and close to 6,000 if a month, if things go well in my 401k and my other ventures. That would be what I would have for the remainder of my life to live.
Wow, so that's interesting. So you said, okay, I know what I need to live on. And so that's the goal that I need to be able to reach so that I can retire to have a certain amount. Okay, so if I gave you $1,000 right now, how would you invest it?
Well, to be honest with you, the way the market has gone the last couple of years, my 401k has had almost like a 40% return, which is amazing. It's usually nowhere ever that high. So if I had $1,000, honestly, I would probably just stick it in my 401k, just for the simple fact that it's making 30 to 40% on
Yes. So I hope everybody in the audience hears that your savings accounts are not making what Mark just told you they're making. So,
Or under the mattress.
or under the mattress, yeah. That was my grandmother's thing. Under the mattress, in the mattress. So the 401k has worked for you. What else has worked for you?
I I am the type of person who I'm not really one to make small risks. I think small risks they don't get a lot of return. Um, so I like to venture out and do things. There are penny stocks that I have bought. One thing I got into early was the Dogecoin, which is a cryptocurrency. I bought that at like a penny. Right now it's trading at like 30 cents the last time I looked. That was a decent.
Wow.
I think to me, the main thing is as long as you don't use money that you don't have to lose, then it's always a win because it can at least be a learning experience. It can be what I can do, what I can't do, but you wouldn't want to take 10 grand of your savings and do that. If you have $25, $50 here, I do a lot of research. I do a lot of reading naturally. So things that I don't know interest me greatly. So when there are things that I don't know, I try to read and learn about them. And then I like to take a chance to see what could happen. Nine times out of 10, nothing happens. But that one time is really, all you're really looking for. So
That's good advice. So what mistakes did you make?
I think the biggest mistake I've made, honestly, is when I was younger, I was working. And then when the recession happened, I think it was like 2006 or so, I actually lost my job. And they gave me the ability to either roll over my 401k I had at the time or just take the cash. And I was thinking, oh man, the market's horrible. I lost a bunch of money. Let me take it out now. And I used that money, I think, to get a house or get an apartment or whatever it was. But I would have made my money back plus some had I kept the 401k and rolled it over. So I think my biggest mistake was thinking the market wasn't going to recover. One thing I've always learned is the people that have money are always going to keep that money. So no matter what, even now, say, when the economy isn't doing great or with COVID, my 401k or the investments that I had in the stock market never really went down. People weren't working. We couldn't leave the house. Gas was like $1. But my stocks never really got affected. And I just think, the people that have that type of money are in those investments. They're always going to want to keep their money. And the stock market isn't really indicative of, real life. Sometimes, your stock market be doing 40%, but you got laid off. So my biggest mistake was thinking, okay, well, this cash would be better served to be in my hand. But as you know, cash in your hand doesn't gain any interest. It doesn't make you any money. So had I put that money back in, I'd probably be double where I am now. But I try not to look back at things like that. It was a mistake and it's learned going forward.
Okay, wow, that's really good advice. Okay, I'm going to pick your brain because you don't think you're an expert, but you certainly sound like one to me. What is cryptocurrency?
To be honest with you,
Give me like the
I'm not
simplest
exactly
definition you
sure. It's really a form of payment that's online, and you can use that for goods and services. There's this thing called blockchains, and that's really what creates crypto. And a blockchain is nothing more than a decentralized location of a bunch of computers that holds all this information. So, every most cryptos actually have like a monetary currency, like a coin. I've never actually owned that. Like the Dogecoin, I own stock in the company. I don't own literal Doge coins.
Okay.
So crypto is just another form of payment. Just like a little background, the U.S. dollar used to be based on gold. So every dollar there was an amount of gold behind that. Well, the U.S. no longer is on the gold standard. It's really on the standard of we say our money's worth something, so it is. So in effect, crypto is not much different than the U.S. dollar, as in it's worth whatever someone may say it is.
Wow. So do you think it's beneficial to people that they should at least learn about what it is? Because you keep hearing Bitcoin is a form of cryptocurrency. Do you think that's something people should get knowledgeable about?
Absolutely. Like I said, I am a naturally inquisitive person. So when I hear something or someone's talking and say, hey, do you know what this is? And my answer is no, my natural inclination is to just look things up and research and say, what is this? And it may be something that you don't want to get involved because it's extremely risky. It's very easy to lose all your money. It's not regulated by the FDIC, or it's not regulated by the SEC. So you could wake up one morning and all your money is gone. And I'm not sure what the recourse on that would be, because it's not something that's regulated like a normal stock. But to me, things are always worth the risk, especially if it's a big risk, if you can make big on the other end. So I definitely think it's something that's worth looking into, but it's not something I would take all of my savings and go with at the moment.
Good advice. Okay, we've talked about how much money you need to retire. Now, if someone out in the audience is like, okay, he's lucky, his company offers a 401k, and my company doesn't offer that. Do you think the IRA is just as good, or something that people should look into to save for their own retirement outside of Social Security?
Absolutely. The big thing is that a 401k is something that's offered through your employer, and an IRA is just an individual retirement account. So it's really just a 401k you set up for yourself. Even if you have a 401k, you can still have an IRA. You can take the money. If your job offers you a 401k, they have a company that takes that money and invests it for you. You can get that money yourself and invest it yourself if you'd like. I don't know enough about mutual funds and spider markets and all these other things to really take the money and do it myself. And especially now that that they're getting such a great return with the stock market the way it is. But having something is always nice. So basically, an IRA is if you open a business, or if you just want to take matters into your own hands. That's always a great.
You know what, Mark, you have been a wealth of knowledge. I always give my guests the last word. What do you think is important if somebody's sitting there and they haven't even started saving or investing? What advice would you give them to get started?
My main advice would be is, in any time I do anything with type of stock market, is it's always, oh, I could have done this, or oh, I could have done that, or had I bought Bitcoin at $1, or if I got in that Tesla early. Just my way of thinking of life in general, just not stocks, is I tend not to try to look back at things. I'm a very much forward-thinking person. Always looking back, you're constantly going to think about the mistakes you made, which is what you do. But I like to look forward in the next thing, not the last thing. So I think the main thing is, okay, if you haven't gotten started, what that means is you just have to be more aggressive. You may have to put more back. But just because you don't have anything, to me, that's not a good reason to not do something. I hate when people say, well, that's how it's always been. That's how I'm going to do it. That's the number one red flag for me in anything. The way I used to do something, it's not how I want to do it going forward normally. I always want to see, can I be more efficient? Can I be smarter? Can I be better? Just anything to not be the same as I was before. I love progression. I love things evolving. I mean, that's really what life is. I love nature shows. So anytime you watch a nature show, it's really just animals fighting to mate with the person and all that, or and another animal, and all that does is pushing things forward. The species is going to evolve. That's all they really think about: eating and reproduction. We have to move things forward. We have to push things forward. So just don't look back and think, oh, I lost this money, or oh, I could have did this. It's, what can I do next? That would be my advice.
Mark,
Not just in investing, in life.
that's exceptional advice. And I want to thank you. Like I said, I know you don't think you're an expert, but I'd say you're pretty close. So thanks for sharing all your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Have a good one.
Hey, everybody. I want to introduce you to my next guest, and this is Royce. And just so everybody in the audience is aware, we didn't go out and look for professional financial consultants. We wanted to talk to everyday parents and families and individuals to find out what they're doing to make a difference in their savings and in their investments. And so, one of the people that popped to our mind was Royce, because we know that Royce has really been an advocate for people saving. And so, Royce, welcome to Tabernacle Talks.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Okay, I always, have questions. So I guess my first one for you is, when did you start saving money?
I started saving money probably pretty early. I think it became a really big thing once I started having kids, or well, got in a relationship and got married and started having kids, to really start thinking like, man, I got to figure out, the money just kind of goes like, it's either you're paying for diapers or you're paying for cheer outfits and fees or whatever the kids want to do. It's like the money just goes. So I needed to figure out a way to make sure we had some type of emergency fund. So that's what I did. I opened up a savings account through work and also through just my personal banking, and started saving $5-10 here and there, just so that we can just make sure we had funds as needed.
So what were your goals? Did you have like a dollar amount in mind, a percentage amount? What kind of goal did you set up?
I have a couple of friends that are financial planners, and I guess their rule of thumb has always been that if you don't have $500 saved up, you're not really doing what you need to be doing. So I started out with the goal of 500. If I at least have $500 saved up, that if a car broke down, we can most typical car repairs are under $500, or if we needed grocery bills about $100. So just 500 seemed like that good starting number.
And I'm glad you say that, because I know for people in the audience, if you're thinking he was going to say like $5,000, people, that's not what he said. He said $500. That was the goal, to say, I just need an emergency fund someplace. If I have an emergency, I can go and pick up those dollars. So if, say I gave you $1,000 right now, and it was just yours to invest any way you wanted to, what would you do with it?
So investing, I always try to invest in things that interest me. So whether it be computers, I don't always think the first thing when I think about computers, everybody thinks of Apple. I don't really want to go invest in Apple. I mean, their stocks are ridiculously high. And I mean, there are good times and bad times to invest in Apple. So I'm not saying not to invest in Apple, but you have Dell, you have HP, you have all these other different tech companies that, you can invest in. Samsung is a good company to invest in, or, just think about options like Samsung, or even, like I said, we have a 4-month-old. So if you think about investing in companies like Pampers, you think about Huggies or Loves, like I've always been taught that you invest in things that interest you. You can dabble in other things, but you may not, you may not typically care about what's going on, or you feel like you have a sense of ownership, if you will, when you invest in things that interest you. So you can say like, hey, I own part of Apple, or hey, I own part of Dell, or hey, I own Pampers. You do own Pampers when you buy them, but you can say that you own a share in the company, so you have a sense of value and ownership within that company.
Jimmy, that's an interesting and actually a great idea. So what has worked for you?
I mean, I guess it's really that, just investing in the things that interest you. Like I said, I'm not anybody to tell you I'm not a big medical person. I don't know medical terms. I don't know parts of the body. Science wasn't my biggest, my favorite subject in school. But thinking about the COVID vaccine, like that is something that I had taken interest in, as they were developing and coming up with, their solutions at the time. So that was something I even looked at stocks to see, what was going on. You can kind of see, just based on how, the world, the things that are going on in the world, you can kind of see that within the stock. So if you see, what, sorry.
That's okay.
Say hiya.
Hiya.
So for things like that, so if you while they were investing or while they're creating the vaccine, you could see their stocks, either rise or fall based on, their progress or their publicity, or, whether it be positive or negative. You can see that really in the stock market. Same thing, like I said before, with computers. If Apple just has a press release and they're about to release the new iPhone, whatever number they're on, I think it's 13 now.
13, yeah.
You can go to the stock market and you'll see that rise or fall based on whatever their news is in the stock market.
So what mistakes did you make?
I think mistake wise, it would be getting too excited and, seeing my money increase and getting a little bit ahead of myself and either pulling out too early or leaving my money in there too long, and or leaving money and in a rapidly changing stock and not following back up with it, and you come back and your money's gone. Some, if you invest in and don't pay attention to them, they will rapidly change and you'll come back and your money will be gone.
Okay, everybody hear that. So it's not for the weak stomach. If you think investing is always going to be a positive return, you need to really educate yourself, because you have to be prepared for losses.
Yeah, and there are stocks, long-term and short-term stocks. So if you're investing in a long-term stock, it's probably best to leave your money there and don't worry about it. Just leave it there. You can check on it periodically, but if you see it go up or down, don't freak out. I mean, it's considered a long-term stock for a reason. Short-term stocks, those, I guess those are the ones that they would say like they typically have a steady incline or increase or decrease.
Just explain to us in simple terms, what is a stock?
I would say this in the simplest way: a stock is a share or ownership or a piece of ownership in a company. So like I said, you can, if you're investing in Apple, depending on how many shares you buy, if you buy one share, you own a piece of Apple. I wouldn't say it's a lot to be considered like a major owner. Like, you have maybe, some of the big high up people, they may own a large majority of the shares of Apple, but you do, in a sense, have a piece of say so in the company.
So people understand it's like a small piece of the company. It doesn't have to be a large piece, but it is in fact a piece. Okay. So what's diversification?
Diversification, I would say, is just how it sounds. You're having different types of investments. So if you invest in technology, if you have funds or you have stocks in technology, you have some gas, you have stocks in large companies, you have stocks in small companies. You may have a mutual fund, you may have short-term, long-term funds. So it's just having a variety of different stocks within your portfolio.
Okay. So try to explain to us in real simple terms how bonds work.
That it's a loan that the company's taking out. So the company may have a number of bonds that are available, and investors or people that just have an interest in the company can purchase these bonds, and the company gets the funds and you make some interest on it, and over time you can cash out those bonds.
Wow. Royce, one thing I can say for you certainly are able to multitask, and it's always exciting and refreshing to see dads doing their share to take care of the kids, because that's certainly an expense that you save on by providing your own childcare. What advice would you give somebody in our audience if they're just starting to save?
Starting to save, I would say start with $5. Don't try and save more than, don't break the bank. Don't jeopardize paying bills or your livelihood. Start off small. Start off with $5, $10, and leave it there. Don't sit there and try and invest or save $100, $200, and that's money that you really, really need. $5, $10, $20, if you can do it, $50, and then leave it there. Come back, and you'll look up, and you'll have a nice little amount of change. You'll eventually have that $500 emergency fund, and then from there you just keep saving, and you eventually move to investing if that's what you so choose.
Wow. Royce, thank you so much for taking time out of a very busy day to talk to us about investing, because I think it's important for people to understand that they got to have some long-term goals. And I think you've shown us that it's not a big amount in a short period of time. It's a little amount over
Yeah.
a long period of time. And you just, so how do you stop from touching that, I just have to ask you this, how do you control not touching that nest egg?
Well, I make sure that I don't have the ATM card readily available. I actually gave it to my wife and had her hide it somewhere so I wouldn't think about it.
Okay. I think, so one of your strategies was you just don't have the ATM card available
Yeah.
right at your disposal so you can go into that account, but you do online banking so you can see it growing.
Yes.
Wonderful. Any last words? I always give my guest the last word.
No, other than as far as stocks, don't be afraid to take risks. Do your research. I guess that's really it.
Thank you so much. I think this is going to be cute, actually. I'm glad he got in. Okay, so here's a novel way to save $667. Get you a large jug, and starting in January, each day, put that amount in the jug. So for example, January 1, 1 penny. January the 25th, 25 pennies. The 75th day of the year, 75 pennies. You get it. By day 365, 365 pennies. You'll have $667 at the end of the year. We all know there are people out there who don't deal in change. So for you people, let's play Can You Spare 5? Every time you get a $5 bill, every time one touches your hand and it's yours, put it in a box. Do that for 1 year. Guarantee you'll have a nice little stash of cash. Okay, we've shown you 2 ways that you can come up with a savings. And then what are you going to do with it? Hey, you could create an emergency fund, purchase a certificate of deposit. You could start an IRA, individual retirement account, purchase a savings bond, or pay off a high-interest credit card. Hey, for me, when I look at investing, there are some really simple things that you can do. And I started investing many, many years ago. But one of the things that I think is really cute that you can do, and that probably cute's not a good word, simple. There's an app on my phone. On my phone, I have an iPhone, and it's called Acorn. And what you do is you set up your Acorn account and you attach it to an ATM card. They provide one, or you can attach it to an existing ATM card. So every time I make a purchase, it rounds up. So let's say I make a purchase for $6.50. It'll round up to $7 and invest that change. So I started Acorn. Probably I've been doing this maybe about 6 months. And I've already amassed a couple $100 just from doing that. I don't miss it. So, and then by the time you got like $5 in that little slush fund, it dumps it over into like a main account. So that's something simple that you can do. You're not missing that money. You're not really paying attention to it. And you have an account. And if you invite other people to join, so let's say 3 or 4 people in your family of your friends join, you get $1,000 for every time somebody joins. So that's just something I do that's simple. Another thing that I do is I took my health savings account. And many of you, if you have a health savings account, you use that to fund purchases for medical expenses, dental expenses, before you get to your deductibles, or you use it to pay your copays. Well, when you get to a certain dollar amount in your health savings account, you can actually invest some of that money into mutual funds. So I have a health savings account, and I have the app right here on my phone. And I took $1,000 because your health savings accounts, they can accumulate extra dollars pretty fast if you have a good year. Now, if you have a bad year and you have a lot of expenses, you don't have that. But you can take that extra money and you can invest that. And, a minimum investment, it's not a lot of money that you have to put in there, but that's something else you could do. So look at some of the vehicles that you already have. your health savings accounts, an app on your phone that rounds up and puts dollars. Those are the kind of things. So I would say savings don't have to be hard. They don't have to be difficult. I know for a lot of women out there, if you're like me, if you just probably went through all of your purses, you'd probably find loose change that you could take to one of these change coin machines and have like a ton of money to put away. So I would suggest to anybody, keep your loose change, stack it up in a milk jar, in a milk carton, anywhere that you can just save and start small and teach your kids how to start small too. Piggy banks are still in style, and perhaps you can set up a game with your kids where by the time they fill the piggy bank, they get a prize or something for that piggy bank. Set up bank accounts for your children. You can attach those accounts to your accounts and make a conscious decision that you're going to deduct or forward money from your accounts into their accounts so they understand the value of money. And then when you make purchases, they can see how that affects their bottom line and set up goals for them too. So those are the simple things that I do. And we'll share more tips and secrets from just everyday people. And again, this isn't investment advice. We're not professionals telling you what to do. We're just telling you what's worked for us. Because I had decided my goal was I didn't want to be eating cat food when I was a senior citizen. So that's why I started early. And we're going to advise people, just start where you start. It's never too late to start. But I really liked my last guest, Royce's advice about $500. Just have an emergency fund for $500. I mean, that's just a really smart strategy for anyone, so that if you have an emergency repair for your car, or say your water heater goes out, or you have a problem with your plumbing, you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, where am I going to get that $500? Because you've got it stashed away. Hope that helps. Approximately 40% of retirees are still paying on a mortgage. When you're trying to determine how much money you should set aside for retirement, you want to look at your medical expenses, the cost of inflation, and your current standard of living. Here's the real kicker. Experts suggest you're going to need about 80% of your pre-retirement income during each year of retirement.